My mic's not on. There you go. Hello and welcome. Sorry, the mic was muted. You don't need to tell me. Everyone's going to tell me in the chat now. There's a bit of a delay. Okay. Hello, good morning, and welcome to Morning Brew on Politics Social. I am Graham Hughes, as I just said. It is Thursday, the 4th of December, 2025. We need to move Mr. Gruber down one little bit towards the ground. Yes, I know. I was on mute. It's okay. You don't have to tell me anymore. We're having some technical difficulties already because I'm not getting any updates on my. The chat is updating on the screen here, but it's not updating. Plus, as you might be able to hear, we're having work done downstairs, and so it's going to be really noisy while I'm doing this show. But there you go. It's grey, miserable, and chucking it down here in Wiltshire. Well, it's grey. I'm not miserable, but the weather's a bit poo. It's not chucking it down here in Durham, but it might do soon. It could be the middle of the night here. It's so dark. Paula, it's been building up to this. Sarah's saying I feel totally broken. I can understand Sarah. It's just been really, really shit, and the weather's not helping. Sarah, which thing brought that on? Sorry, that is the guys downstairs drilling. So you're going to hear a lot of drilling during this. Winter is here. It is indeed. Some people like it, Some people like the miserable weather. I don't. Oh my God, how is it Thursday already? My life is flashing before my eyes. Martin, I feel the same way, mate. Feel exactly the same way. So, listen, let me just do something. Hang on. Okay, this mic's quite directional, so I'm hoping that the noise from downstairs isn't going to interfere with the show too much. If it is interfering, if it's really noticeable, just let me know, and I might be able to do some technical wizardry to try and stop it from being quite so annoying. What else have we got in here? I hope you're okay, Sarah. Oh, Jenny's asking if hoping Sarah's going to be okay. There's a lot of love in the chat, and we want to keep that going today. We are talking today about transphobia because we need to talk about this. It is reached a point now. It's like fever pitch out there. And you can't say anything in support of trans people on Facebook without a million people that you don't know. Absolute fucking strangers with like 5 friends on Facebook, almost as though they're not real people, coming on your channel, on your feed, on your page, whatever it's called, or thread, and going, oh, trans people, whoa, 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 whoa. But here's the thing. 10 years ago, the British media, the British discourse did not revolve around trans people at all. Trans people existed, transitioned, they joined community groups, they volunteered, they worked, they lived normal lives. The Women's Institute and the Girls' Guides both accepted trans women with little controversy. And both organisations say they did so proudly for decades. But now trans people are being treated as a central battlefield of British cultural politics. Newspapers run daily front page moral panics. Westminster treats trans lives as a wedge issue. And I want to talk today about what changed and, more importantly, who changed it. So, this is kicked off by yesterday. I got really upset doing the papers yesterday, seeing the Telegraph describing the ban on trans girls joining the Girl Guides as how did they put it? They put it as a victory against trans. And those of you watching yesterday were as shocked as I was. I could tell in the chat. If you swap out the word trans for any other minority group, that is completely unacceptable. Absolutely 100% unacceptable. A victory against trans. And don't forget, they framed the Supreme Court decision earlier in the year as a victory for women. Notice how they're talking about this. They're talking about it like it's a war. Like it is a war because it is in their heads. Well, it's not really, because the ringleaders, the conductors of all this, they don't care about trans people one way or another. They're just using it as a way of consolidating their power. So in April, the Supreme Court defined women under the Equality Act as biologically female for discrimination claims, and this ruled narrowly on whether a trans woman with a gender recognition certificate counts as a woman for the Equality Act sex-based protections, right? The ruling did not outlaw trans inclusion by private groups, but it did create ambiguity. Legal experts, especially the Good Law Project, argue that organizations can still include trans women, but the ruling does not, and that the ruling does not require exclusion. But the Women's Institute and the Girl Guides both reluctantly acted on legal advice and fear of litigation, because the people who are driving the engine of transphobia have incredibly deep pockets, and we'll get to this. Anti-trans groups immediately frame this as a total legal victory, despite ruling being limited in scope. And the headline in the Telegraph yesterday, the victory against trans. So they framed it in April as a victory for women, and then it was a victory against trans. They're trying to make it sound like a war. And this really matters. The Women's Institute and Girl Guiding, these are two of the UK's most trusted, most beloved national institutions. The Women's Institute has over 40, nearly 50 years of history welcoming trans women into its number. The exclusion signals a chilling effect across civil society, and charities fear becoming legal test cases and losing funds in court battles. And they can't afford it. A lot of these charities are, they've got the money to give to people who are in need. They don't have the money to be spending hundreds of thousands of pounds fighting court cases against the likes of billionaires like J.K. Rowling, who can just burn money on a daily basis. Trans women, they're losing access to social groups, peer support, volunteering opportunities, work opportunities, and visibility. Exclusion risks outing people as well who are not publicly trans. This is another huge issue. You're going after people who might not have outed themselves, and how are you going to know? They might not have told anyone in the WI that they were trans, because it didn't matter. You go into a room and you say, hands up here if you're a woman, and the women put the hands up. And that's good enough for most people, but it was until 10 years ago. But this sets a new norm of institutions surrendering inclusion under political and legal and financial pressure from the demons, from the motherfuckers who are trying to destroy everything we know and love in this world. And I'll come to that in a moment. First of all, I'm just going to read the chat there. Martin Veg Pie is saying, I find it's always Thursday. It always goes Thursday, Friday, bit of a weekend, Monday, Thursday. I never could get the hang of Thursdays. Elle says, if this is what I think it is, I posted on Discourse in the Good Law Project's response while typing this. Graham has confirmed it is. Big Marvinsky says, I missed a lot yesterday. This disheartens me. And if there are ways I can help to rid transphobia, I'm here, I'm willing. And Jenny says, I was thinking about joining the WI, won't now, might have to set my own version where everyone is welcome unless you're a dickhead. Yeah. But the statements that the Girl Guides and the Women's Institute put out, the genuine heartbreak at having to do this. They do not want to have to do this. These are institutions that are being forced to do something that they don't want to do by J.K. fucking Rowling and the oil companies, which I'll come to in a moment. Groups like Fair Play for Women, which is a transphobic group, have lobbied the Women's Institute and Girl Guiding for years, predating this ruling. They've in 2018 they put up a petition demanding that the Girl Guiding group, the Girl Guides, reviewed their trans policy. These groups use media influence, legal threats, and manufactured outrage to pressure institutions. Just make it very clear now. There has never, ever in the history of the Girl Guides in this country been an incident of a trans girl attacking a cisgender girl. Not one. Not one. Not one incident ever. There's not one thing you can point to and say, "Oh, this is where they attacked a girl." No, it's never happened. Not once. This is a fantasy that the transphobes have, that trans people are running around committing crimes when they know they're not. The people that the ringleaders of this know they are not. And what really hurts is that Labour could stop this tomorrow. Labour could use a statutory instrument to amend the Equality Act and put in a glossary, put in an appendix that says a definition of a term: a woman is a cisgender woman or a trans woman. Jobs are good. If you want, you can make it trans women with a gender recognition certificate, but the vast majority of trans women do not have a gender recognition certificate because it's dead hard to get one. Make it easier to get one. If you're going to go down that route, make it a lot easier to get a gender recognition certificate. If you've lived as a woman for a year, 2 years, whatever it is, whatever they decide, then that's good enough for me. And it should be good enough for anybody. It seemed to be until 10 years ago. What changed? J.K. Rowling, financially backing For Women Scotland, a group whose appeal produced the Supreme Court ruling, and these clocky turf motherfuckers were celebrating outside the High Court, the Supreme Court, earlier this year. Really grotesque images of these quite grotesque people being hateful bigots. Anti-trans groups have taken a lap of victory, despite organisations emphasising reluctance and distress at having to do these things, of having to exclude people. And it shows the level of political capture by activists, by these transphobic activists, not a broad democratic consensus by any stretch of the imagination. The actual reality is 41% of trans people, and some of the people watching this now, have experienced hate crime based on their gender identity. Trans people face higher rates of homelessness, unemployment, family estrangement, and mental health crises. 50%, over 50% of young trans people have attempted suicide. Over 50%. Which is multiple times higher than the rest of the population. This is a group of people who are marginalised, who are vilified at the moment unfairly. Life was already hard enough if you were trans, and then these gruesome billionaire motherfuckers came along and said, right, we need a target. We need someone. We need a wedge issue. We need something that we can bring people who think that they're liberal, think that they're left wing. We can bring them on board with this hatred, the acceptable face of bigotry. Removing community spaces like the Girl Guides, like Women's Institute risks, it exacerbates the risk for mental health, but also for isolation, which also exacerbates that mental health crisis. Do you think these people who are doing this care? They really don't. They really don't. They talk about protecting women from what? From what? Men, cisgender men, are 100 times more likely to attack women than trans women are likely to attack cisgender women. And when I say women, I mean women, whether you're cisgender or trans. Like, men are more likely to attack women. Like, so much more overwhelmingly likely to attack women. And so many of them get away with it. What's the stats at the moment? Is it one rape in 100 actually results in a custodial sentence? And you got this, thing of men going, "Oh, I'm scared of someone saying that I did something I didn't do." Well, don't put yourself in a position where someone can accuse you of doing something that you didn't do. What else have we got here? Just wanted to say thanks, Graham, for your support of us trans people. Says Princess Hassim. You're fearless, mate. I wish there were more of you. That's so kind of you. I don't feel fearless. I really don't. I feel like I'm not doing enough. I feel like I just want to fucking scream in the faces of the dickheads who are propagating this nonsense. I wish I had the money. I wish I had the power. I wish I had the contacts to do more. You know, maybe if I made some different life choices, I could have that position of just being able to, I don't know, scream in one person's face and whisper in another one's ear to say, stop this, just fucking stop this, but I can't. Elle says, this isn't law. The area attack is single spaces. These organizations are being pressured into exclusion for fear of breaking the law. Again, it's overreach to force exclusion. It absolutely is. It's apartheid. It's apartheid. Imagine if they said they were going to stop black women from joining the Girl Guides or Muslim women from joining WI. Could you imagine that? I'll put my glasses back on. It was funny yesterday, the time travel movie stream, and hardly anyone in the chat had seen anything. Harry Potter. I know, Oliver counted at the end, 16 of those films I hadn't seen. 16 of those films in 35 films. And like I say, I regard myself as a bit of a film buff. When it was the 100 greatest films of all time, there was only 3 films that I hadn't seen. If you don't know what we're talking about, Rachel and I, we jumped down the rabbit hole together yesterday, and we were talking about time travel movies, because Rachel is famously a time traveler, you know. And we're just going through them, and I'm like, not heard of it, not even heard of it. It's not like just a case of I haven't seen this movie. It was like, I have never even heard of this movie. But yeah, I'll be watching a lot of them over the next few weeks, I have to say. And Sarah says, I hate to say it, the Tories did make it easier to get the gender recognition certificate in the last few years before the election, even lowering the cost from £150 to £5. You still need the medical advice and evidence. Yeah, Theresa May was going to bring in this the Gender Recognition Act, weren't they? Or update the Gender Recognition Act. Things were going all right. I mean, you know, they've never been perfect, but since we got gay marriage in 2013, things seem to be getting better. And then the money came in. The money, the moneyed elite who want to sow discord and make turn communities against each other. And you can imagine how this is going to go down. I mean, the Women's Institute is one thing, which is awful. It's absolutely awful. But like, Girl Guides, these are little kids. These are kids. You know, let them be kids. Let them be who they want to be. What does it matter? Who fucking cares? It's gone from, oh, you're stopping women from coming 5th in a swimming competition, to like literally, oh no, you can't have a transgender kid in Girl Guides because they might attack the other Girl Guides. And it's like, why would they? That's something that's never happened. And you could say the same about any minority, and it would sound just as bigoted. But yeah, it just shows this level, like I say, of political capture. 41% of trans people experience hate crime, and that's going up. That's gone up so much in the last few years. And the fact that the rhetoric on trans people, it's set out like a political abstraction, but it's actually affecting real human beings, real people. You know, life's hard enough anyway. It's like, we're all dealing with mountains of debt, shit weather, climate change, the fucking cost of living, the fact the pint of lager is £7 now. When did that happen? But here's the thing, right? Investigations show that 80% of anti-trans organizations have they receive funding from the fossil fuel companies. Shell USA Foundation donated to the Alliance Defending Freedom in America. That's called the ADF. Not to be confused with the AFD, which is a right-wing Nazi organization, whereas the Alliance Defending Freedom is a right-wing Nazi organization. Philip Anschultz donated $110,000 to the Alliance Defending Freedom. His foundation funded multiple transphobic entities. The Wilkes brothers, who are fracking billionaires, helped launch the Daily Wire, a major anti-trans propaganda outlet. Fossil fuel industry funds culture wars to distract from climate accountability. That's why they're doing it. They create emotional, identity-driven issues to keep voters polarized and disengaged from systemic threats like climate change. The anti-trans rhetoric fits neatly into a political movement rooted in dominance, hierarchy, and reactionary values. And the same donors fund climate denial, anti-abortion, anti-immigration, anti-LGBTQ plus policies and authoritarian policies. Transphobia becomes a gateway culture war that mobilizes voters without offering any material benefits. And this is effective politics, isn't it? Because this puts values over material interest. It's this idea that, you get these right-wing strategists who understand people vote based on identity and values, not material self-interest. And identity politics drives behavior across issues, and whether people consider themselves left-wing or radical or liberal, they can still fall into these traps. I've met a lot of people in Labour who are mad fucking TERFs. Absolutely mad TERFs. They absolutely hate trans people. They think that trans people are allowed to get them, and there's no reasoning with them. They are swivel-eyed lunatics about it, and they're very loud and very... They think they're in the right. They think they're fighting the good fight. They're like the terrorists on 9/11, in those planes. They thought they were doing the right thing. So misguided, and they've been swallowed up by hatred, by absolute hatred. You're an infecting of. Thank you very much for the £5 super chat. I will never understand transphobia, same as homophobia and racism. It's a curb a millimeter high. No one should be tripping over this shit. Yeah, you're an infecting of. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't, why do people care? Why? What, if you're not gay, why do you care that people are gay? If you're not trans, why do you care that people are trans? I got into trouble. The other day, someone put something transphobic on, as a reply on my Facebook, and I was like, are you trans? You look trans. And I got a load of shit saying, oh, that's transphobic to say that they look trans. I'm like, trans people, I know some incredibly beautiful trans people. I'm saying that, that they might be trans themselves, and that's why they're so obsessed with trans people. I mean, you wouldn't be that obsessed if you weren't trans, right? Right? Peter Dinklage says in Bruges, I'm a dwarf. I don't have dreams about dwarves. This is something made up by people who aren't dwarves, that people all dream about dwarves. It's just like, what? Does J.K. Rowling really wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning in a cold sweat because trans people exist? I maybe she does. Maybe she does. I know. Graham Linehan's trying to drink himself to death because trans people exist, which, okay. And I'm just going to send a message, sorry. Okay. What are you saying? When they say there's no trans kids, ever trans adults, I was a kid, and personally I knew from the age of 7 I was different. Then when I was able to understand more, I knew I was trans. Yeah. Well, they want to make out like it's a fad, like it's a thing that kids do to have fun. They go, oh, I think I'll be trans, and it just the reality just does not reflect, that does not reflect reality in any shape or form. It's like, people might try experimenting in sex when they're teenagers, maybe when they're in their 20s, maybe in their 30s, maybe in their 40s, they might try things, and no one should stop them from doing that. But when it comes to trans identity, it's such a hassle anyway. It makes life a lot more difficult. Why would you put that on yourself unless you were trans, And this idea of these people, this 1% of people who undergo transitioning surgery, gender affirming care, and then change their minds or regret having not necessarily change their mind, but regret having gender affirming care, right? It's 1 in 100. When it comes to having knee surgery, the regret rate is 1 in 5. It's 20 times the amount of regret. People regret having all kinds of stuff. Do you know what a much bigger regret is? People who have Harry Potter tattoos. That is a much higher level of regret. And this idea that these there's a trans lobby, there isn't. I've been in the lobby of Parliament. No trans people there. Yeah, well, where's this lobby? Can you show me where the lobby is? Can you show me where this trans group that's being backed by mysteriously, billionaire companies and trillionaire fucking oil giants? Can you show me? Can you show me where show me where these groups are? Because I can't find them. I've never seen them. Have you seen them? Some trans people watching this, can you tell me where these secret groups are of trans lobbyists, the trans lobby, the trans activists? Where are they? I just don't see them. I see people buying tickets for the Transmission gig next March, which I am absolutely gutted that I can't go to down in London. This gig, it's going to have Wolf Alice doing an acoustic set, which I would die to see. It's going to have Kate Nash is going to be playing. We've got Kay Tempest is going to be playing, who I love. And we're going to have Sugar Babes are playing, Sophie Alex Bextor. If you ever want to go on a sunny day to have a gig and just have a really, really good time, Sophie Alex Bextor, I know she's privately educated. We won't go into that right now, but her mum used to present Blue Peter. But yeah, she's really lovely. I once served her a drink when she played with her band, The Audience, at the Hop and Grape in Manchester University Student Union. But yeah, I just look at this and I am. People are buying tickets, and this is great. This is a really, really good thing, and we need more of this, and we need more people in the public eye standing up for trans people. We really do. It's so urgent right now, and it does seem ridiculous, isn't it? These transphobes, and they're all on the internet talking about taking a red pill, and you're like, "Oh, red pill, is that a reference to the Matrix? The Matrix that was made by two trans women?" Okay, cool. Yeah. And then there's about being biologically male. You do know that the brains of trans people are different to the brains of cisgender people. So there's some biology there. There's definitely some biology there. And it is like being left-handed or being autistic or being ADHD. It is a trait. It's not something that is good or bad. It's just something that some people are. And if they are that, then we need to respect that. And we can't be running around demanding that left-handed people can't join the fucking WI in case they attack someone, out the blue for some reason. Because you know what left people are like? They're very sinister. Yeah, see what he did there? He made a word talking about left-handed people because they're in league with the devil, aren't they? They're the devil's familiar with their left-handed ways. Elle says the best thing to do is assist women who stand by trans to cancel memberships. Then the reaction will be clear in vast numbers. Leaving the shock could put pressure on these guidelines, impact risk assessments. That's very true. Unfortunately, I don't know if that'll happen. I really don't know, because for a lot of women, the WI is a lifeline for them, and they'll be loath to give that up. And at the end of the day, this is something that Labour could sort out. This is something that the government that we have at the moment, just fucking absolute clangers in Parliament, could sort out with the statutory instruments. You don't even have to put a fucking... It's just defining... the Supreme Court. Courts don't make law. They interpret the law. And obviously the way that the Equality Act of 2010, Labour's Equality Act of 2010, was written out, it made it look like, there's a bit of wiggle room there, which obviously the billionaires and the oil companies said, yep, we can get in there and fuck shit up. All it takes is Labour to say, right, we are going to define what we mean by women in this particular instance. In The Matrix, the first words to appear on screen include the word trans. Yeah. One of the characters, I think called Switch, one of the characters, when they wrote the script, there were a few differences. One was that wasn't batteries. They weren't using humans to make batteries, so that makes no sense. They were using humans as a neural network because our brains are incredibly good for thinking of things. So yeah, neural network, keep people in a state of, dreamlike state while you use their processing functions to, do evil robot things. But the other one there was a character, I think they were called Switch. I think you might be able to correct me in the chat if it was a different name. But the idea with Switch is that Switch was going to be a woman in the Matrix, but a man in the real world, or vice versa. And the idea was that they would switch gender, and then the studio told them to take it out. So, it's not like transphobia is anything new, but I thought it was getting better. The days of the 90s and sort of the early 2000s, when you would have violently transphobic movies like Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, which is disgraceful in this respect, Naked Gun 3, 3 1/3, or whatever it's called. Also, South Park having this storyline where one of the characters, Mr. Garrison, turns out to be trans, and they did the old trope of the male lead not knowing that they were trans and kissing them or whatever, and then they find out they're trans, and then they're sick. They vomit everywhere. This was a trope all over media in the 90s, in the 2000s. And that seemed to have been put to bed. And the fact that Nadia won Big Brother with the biggest public vote of all time in Big Brother history was quite remarkable. And there's a trans woman winning Big Brother. I think it was a year after a gay man won it. It was just like, yeah, people are accepting. People are fine with this now. And it did seem for a little while like we had turned the corner, but clearly we hadn't. So yeah, trans will need their own facilities, their own sports, their own toilets, all of which society should pay for and provide, says Peter Paints a lot. Yeah, but that's apartheid, isn't it? You have your own drinking fountains for women, for trans women. Your own your own doorway to go in. Yeah, you go to Saudi Arabia. Go to a restaurant in Saudi Arabia or a cafe or something. They have 2 doors, They have one for the men and one for the women. And they have a kitchen in the middle, and there's 2 separate rooms that you can eat in. Men are allowed in the women's side if they're with their family, but men on their own have to go in the... Trans will need their own... I've read that one. One of my dearest friends came out as trans, and my immediate reaction was to go shopping with her. She's an absolutely amazing woman, and I'm proud and humbled to have her as a friend. Oh, that's so nice, Yuri. Yeah, it just... And then he says it's trying to fit into a paradigm of normality, the dogma of non-existent average. Yeah. Big Trans sounds like it'll be the stage name of the most fabulous drag queen you'll ever see, says Qualifying Ren. Big Trans. Look out. Big Trans is coming to get us. Trans women should be able to use the ladies, and trans men should be able to use the men's. End of. Yeah, Jenny, you're right. Like, what difference does it make? What difference does it make? And even if the weird fetishes of these transphobic nutters were true, and there was a disproportionate number of attacks in public toilets by trans women, it still wouldn't justify the prejudice against trans women. It still wouldn't, because you could say that about a few different minority groups. You can say, well, statistically, they're more likely to do X or Y. But going down that route is dangerous, because you are basically separating humans into different groups depending on what you think that they what you believe their traits are, based on the actions of a few of them. And if it's a small minority, you don't need so many doing a horrible thing to say, oh yeah, they're all like this. But with trans people, it's less than the national average for every crime under the sun. Less, way below in some crimes. But yeah, J.K. Rowling genuinely put on her fucking Twitter or whatever, Twitter, a couple of years ago, we need to stop assuming innocence of certain minorities. Richest author in the world. We need to stop assuming innocence. So yeah, right-wing strategists have got onto this, and you had this sort of prejudice clusters that they put together. Sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia often come as a bundle. Transphobia often is used as a Trojan horse to get through other things, to take away rights from gay people, to take away rights from women, reproductive rights, all that kind of stuff. You've seen it in America. And fossil fuel oligarchs exploit this values cluster to strengthen strength through dominance. They're reinforcing the patriarchal order. They're using social hierarchy as a virtue. They're showing this distrust of minorities and societal change. And trans rights threaten rigid gender binaries that underpin conservative identity politics. Because don't forget, they want to go back. It's not just a case of getting rid of trans people. They want to get rid of women in work. They don't want women to work. They want them to be in the house, making babies and cooking and cleaning. They want people to take on the traditional gender roles. J.K. Rowling, also racist, by the way, last year at the Olympics went nuts because there was a woman boxer from Algeria, a place where being trans can end you up in jail or worse. And she said that she's trans. First of all, if she was, then you're publicly outing someone against their will. But the fact is she wasn't trans. And yet J.K. Rowling went after her. And she also went after a boxer from Taiwan. I think it was from Taiwan, who she also didn't think looked traditionally feminine enough. Didn't fit into the traditional gender femininity bracket that J.K. Rowling is the arbiter of, which is funny because J.K. Rowling herself is clocky as fuck. Let's face it. I mean, she's clearly looked in the mirror, not liked what she saw, and decided to externalize that hatred out to everybody else in the world. With fabulous trans women who look more feminine than she does. But this idea of this arbitrary, like, I get to decide whether you're a woman or not, is ridiculous. Do you know who gets to decide who's a woman or not? The woman. The woman. She decides. Okay? Go into a room, put your hand up if you're a woman. All the women who put their hands up, they're women. Right? Simple as that. And the right fortify transphobia. That they invest heavily in transphobia because it helps out their ideological coalition. Undermining these. When people undermine these gender roles, these binaries, it threatens the emotional foundation of the political right. And don't forget, most people on the right vote and have their political opinions based on fear. On fear. That's what drives them. And when you are panicked, you make bad decisions. And the right wing know this. And this is why it tries to make panics all the time. This, what we're living through right now, is a trans panic. It's a panic that trans people will come and get you. Like the boogeyman. Like, they'll come. You say trans 3 times in the mirror, a trans woman will come and piss in your toilet. I mean, and the media's completely helped manufacture this backlash against trans people. Pre-2015, the UK media generally had an either neutral or supportive view of trans people. But post-2015, there was a coordinated pivot to this so-called trans debate. Now there is no trans debate. Trans people exist. It's like having a left-handed debate, or having an autistic debate, or having a black people debate or Jewish people debate. There is no debate to be had. They exist. And we need to create a world in which everyone feels valued and loved and cared for and safe. That's the world that we need to make instead of people living in fear. But it doesn't help the right for people not to live in fear. People tripping over homeless people on the way to work because, here, look at that fear. That's you. That's you if you don't toe the line, if you don't keep clocking in every morning, if you don't, if you speak out, if you miss a mortgage payment, that could be you. That could be you. The panic. Sound like fucking Radiohead here, don't I? But there was an explosion of negative coverage in the Times, the Telegraph, the Mail against trans people after 2015. You can see it. It's been, people who statisticians have looked at this and gone, oh my God, the negative stories about trans people before 2015 is fucking negligible. After 2015, it just went through the fucking roof. And the news framing shifts from human stories to using words like threats, invasion, which is also used for migrants, safeguarding, talking about victory for women, victory against trans. Like, imagine that headline saying victory against Jews. In victory against Jews, in victory against black people. And these headlines have constructed a moral panic divorced from evidence. This is as daft as the satanic fucking, craziness that went on in the 1980s about Dungeons and Dragons being satanic or something. If anyone remembers that. Mass hysteria. Dogs and cats living together. And this constant repetition creates a false consensus that people assume everyone else is angrier than they are. Again, just like with migration, when you ask people what's the most important issue facing Britain right now, they'll say migration. And you say, well, what's the most important issue facing you? They haven't got an answer. Sorry, they do. They say they do have an answer, and the answer is always cost of living. The fact that everything costs too much, it's hard to keep your head above water these days. And this is exactly the same with the way that trans people are treated as well. With in these headlines, when you ask people, going beyond the headlines, when you ask people in real life, what's a big issue? Oh, trans people, trans people using the toilet, going for a piss. That's a big issue. But personally, what's a big issue to you? And trans never comes into it. Why would it? Why would it? I'm not saying that nobody cares. I'm just saying that it's not a huge issue for most people. In the same way that in 2010, our membership of the European Union was not a big issue for most people. There are a few wingnuts on the right and on the hard left who thought the EU was a mechanized Frankenstein. Those words were used by a previous leader of Labour, who shall remain nameless. But the rest of us, we were just getting on with our lives. No, it wasn't a big thing, but then we were told it was a big thing by the newspapers, the media, the oil barons, the cartels, the oil cartels, the Saudis, the Russians. They all had their hand in it in Brexit, and they did the same thing here with trans people. And this spiral of silence causes moderates to avoid defending trans people publicly, and we see this with James O'Brien. And Rachel points this out all the time. James O'Brien says that things like, oh, well, trans issues aside, and then he talks about, being a liberal and all this kind of stuff. He did one good phone-in this year, which was when the Supreme Court decision came down. He spoke to some trans women who spoke so eloquently and so beautifully about the pain and the upset that this was causing. But he and other commentators actively avoid talking about trans issues because they know that there is, let's say, 1,000 people who are being paid right now by the oil companies to go nuts every time anyone mentions the word trans. Whether that's on a radio show, whether that's on TV, whether that's on social media, their job is to respond. They're all AI anyway. A lot of them bots online. And they're set up so if anyone says something trans and something positive about trans people, they will come on and say, I hate trans people. The amount of projection my right-wing friends indulge in unconsciously is unbelievable. They tell me what I think more than what they think. Yeah, because they can't think for themselves, Ernie. They're very lazy. They're very lazy people. I mean, imagine being so lazy you can't think for yourself. You can't even be bothered engaging your own brain. The satanic panic, the good old days that never really ended. Ren, you could be on to something there, or maybe just got a massive overload of hate encouraged by the vile evil people. Yeah, what's endlessly funny is that the self-insert was defeated before the story even began, defeated again by the nemesis who accepts who they are, yet is so deep in denial she doesn't see it. Yeah. In the big trans closet, so far in the closet, they're in Narnia. It's matched trans to the film villain, the evil twin has a goatee, etc. Colin says, atheist creator Seth Andrews did a brilliant talk about the satanic panic. It's on YouTube. It's worth checking that out. I really don't like being told what to think, says Diz. Yeah, neither do I, Diz. And it's one of the reasons why I don't mind disagreement on this channel or elsewhere. But I just don't like being insulted. I don't like people coming into my thing and into my realm and just sitting there and calling me a dickhead. I'm not calling them a dickhead. This is the thing. If I don't even know who they are, and they just turn up in your comments or in your feed and just start having a go at you, I'm not interested in that. But also, I'm not interested in people parroting stuff that I've heard 1,000 times before. Just parroting whatever Murdoch tells them to think, whatever Murdoch tells them to say, because they can't be asked thinking for themselves. Lazy. It's fucking lazy. I'm going to have to go down there in a bit and see what's happening. They're making a lot of noise. But yeah, the politicians at the moment, especially the Labour politicians, who none of us are happy with, I don't think, watching this, they follow headlines, not public sentiments, and policy becomes this theatre. And then we've got to ask, who benefits from transphobia? Fossil fuel billionaires. Distraction from climate litigation and policies, political regulation of the fossil fuels, which is destroying the planet, destroying people's homes, causing floods, causing fires. They're causing more and more storms of just insane power. And then you got the right-wing parties who use this to energize their base, use it as a wedge issue to divide centre-left parties. And media outlets, they farm, outrage, don't they? Outrage, clicks, subscriptions, rage bait, which is the Oxford English Dictionary word of the year, rage bait. I know it's 2 words, but there you go. Anti-trans, it should be term, shouldn't it? Term of the year. Anti-trans activists have the political influence, they have the donor funding, and they have the cultural relevance at the moment. You've got the LGB Alliance, which is based in fucking Tufton Street, run by private school people, and funded by oil billionaires. No one else profits. Not women, not children, not society. And we just lose, we just really lose. Yuri, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Is that noise rolling, banging on her closet door? Yeah. Well, she even said in her horrible essay, trans wars or whatever, turf wars, whatever she called it. She mentioned that she was abused by her cisgender husband or partner back in the day, male cisgender partner. And that's why she hates trans people, which is just like, okay. Wow. That's like justifying your racism because you're beaten up by a white guy once, so you hate black people. But it wasn't a black person who beat you up. Yeah, but it could have been. Okay. Which was just bonkers. But the other thing she said in that essay was that she might have considered being trans herself when she was younger. Had the opportunity been there, had more cultural acceptance been there, I suppose. This is a woman who writes under the name Robert Galbraith. Also, J.K. Rowling. I mean, that's a non-binary name. Yeah. So let's talk about who loses in all this. Trans women and girls clearly being deprived of community belonging and support networks. Cis women lose out because their organizations have become politicized battlegrounds, and their friendships will be torn apart. Obviously, they will. And women who are kicked out of these organizations are going to feel betrayed by the women who stay in them. You turn a neighbour against neighbour, just like the Brexit wars. They're doing this on purpose. They're like fucking puppet masters, and people are falling for it. People are falling for it, head over fucking, arse over tit. Young people who learn that empathy is conditional and identity is weaponized. Young people growing up through this period are just like, what the fuck? We've got a new Section 28, Section 28 2.0. And British society is losing because we're being dragged backwards into hierarchy, patriarchy, and fear. And there are no the counter arguments. They just fail any kind of test of evidence. Any empirical evidence is not there. There is no evidence that trans inclusion increases risk in any setting, whether it is the Girl Guides or the Women's Institute or going for a piss or sporting events. There is no evidence whatsoever. And we talk about fairness. Trans women participated in girl guiding and the Women's Institute for decades without any issues whatsoever. Not one. And then the legal compulsion. The courts did not require exclusion. Organizations are doing this because the fear of being sued by anti-trans activists and the oil companies who have got infinite amounts of cash to throw at this thing. And when they say they're protecting girls, that adult helpers are still allowed, that completely undermines the safety claim. And you know, we talk about the guides. I mean, they're part of the Scout movement. The Scout movement, which famously housed paedophiles, looked after paedophiles who abused the children in their care. And not one of those people were trans. Not one. Not one. They were all cisgender men. All of them. And so people saying, oh, it's too complicated. I'm like, most countries manage trans inclusion without any kind of crisis. And this is why so many trans women now, and friends of mine, are thinking about leaving the country. Don't forget, if you are British, you got a British passport, and you're worried about the fact that you can't go anywhere else in the EU now because Nigel Farage has taken that freedom away, but he didn't take it away from himself. Don't forget, you can still move to Ireland. I'm not saying it'll be easy, having to uproot your life, and I'm not saying this in a blasé way. Well, you can just move to Ireland, can't you? I know it'll be a fucking massive headache, but you can legally move there. With no questions asked. You can move to Ireland, you can get a job there, you live there for 5 years, you get an Irish passport. Okay, there's some drilling going on downstairs. Sorry about that. So where do we go from here? You know? More institutions may copy the Women's Institute and the Girl Guiding to avoid being targeted. Progressive legal groups are preparing to challenge exclusionary interpretations. That includes the Good Law Project, etc. Climate activists and LGBTQ plus activists are beginning to coordinate more directly, which is something that needs to happen. Don't forget, it was the LGBT community that came together to support the striking miners in the 1980s here in Durham and down in Yorkshire. And that was marvelous. I mean, that is incredible. And I think this is something that we need to see again, because climate activists, very passionate about what they're doing, and making that link between the climate change companies, the fossil fuel companies that are destroying the planet for profit, and the fact that they fund 80% of anti-trans activism in America. It's just remarkable. Like, you got to point that out to people and say, look, you know, we're one of the same, and we really are. And public opinion is still broadly supportive of trans rights, despite the bullshit from the media and the astroturfing and the anti-trans lobbying that goes on, and J.K. Rowling. And organised solidarity movements can reverse institutional retreat if the political cost of exclusion rises. I think that we should all sack off whatever streaming site it is that is going to be having the Harry Potter series that's coming on. It's not just a case of not watching that Harry Potter series. I want everyone to just stop subscribing to that particular feed, whether it's Disney Plus or Netflix or Amazon, whatever it is. Stop subscribing and write to them and tell them why you're stopping subscribing, because you're not giving J.K. Rowling any of your fucking money, because she's going to use it to encourage young trans people to take their own lives. There's no two ways about it. That's what J.K. Rowling is doing right now with her money, with her untold wealth. Thank you very much to Anti-Fascist for the £5 super chat. That's very kind. Blimey, that was weird. Some drilling started in the downstairs flat, and Graham said there was some drilling going on. Look, here's the thing, right? After 2015, right, nothing about trans people changed. What changed was the political incentive to attack them. And the same forces, those exact same forces, are running about destroying the climate, destroying democracy, destroying human rights. So, drill. When you're done, when you're ready. And the answer isn't despair, it's solidarity, you know? It's solidarity, it's truth, it's refusing to accept this manufactured hate as normal, and giving people the tools to understand what they need to do, you know, in order to combat this. But also, it really helps, and I've done this myself, when you're talking to a mate who is, flirting with transphobia, is transphobia curious, point out to them that all this money is coming from the fossil fuel companies, and get them to put the dots together. Ask them questions. Why would the oil companies be funding transphobia? Why would they do that? Yeah. And also, a really great trick that I do. Sorry, wait till the drilling stops. A really great trick that I do. I don't know if it's a trick. That's the best word for it. But I'll look at people's, when they put something homophobic or transphobic on my Facebook account, I go and have a look at their Facebook account, and I point out to them that there was nothing about trans people 10 years ago. What changed? Ask them what changed. What changed their mind? And then you have to respond with, so your mind is not your own. You're so lazy you can't even bother thinking for yourself. You've been told this is a problem because you're either so stupid you don't have the mental capacity to think for yourself, or you're so stubborn you think that anything that comes into your head via Rupert Murdoch, it must be the be all and end all. Coincidence, synchronicity, the chrome-plated megaphone of destiny. You know how drilling works. It's the cats. I've got cats. Cats are drilling behind the couch. When I was active in the scouting movement, one of the big things we were taught was respect, says Pete. Yeah. And that was respect for everyone. Later, we had mixed venture ranger groups with no problems whatsoever. Yeah. Well, my stepdaughter is in Explorers, which is mixed. But there is tons of evidence that real abusers infiltrate professions where they have power over those who they want to abuse. That's what should be vetting. Yeah, absolutely, Ernie. And Sarah says, I think the only choice for me to move to Republic of Ireland. I don't think I can survive this storm of hatred, says Sarah. Sarah, I completely understand. And I'm not going to tell you that you've got to stay here, because if this is something that you're having trouble, it seems so blasé to say, you're having trouble dealing with it. I mean, this is an existential threat to trans people. Whereas in Ireland, people who are trans are treated so much better. In France, people who are trans are treated so much better. Portugal, Spain, all the countries, trans people are treated so much better than they are here right now because of this anti-trans crusade funded by the oil companies, funded by the richest author in the world. I think allowing men into women's sports changed a lot of people's minds. They never allowed men into women's sports. What are you talking about? That's give me something that's never happened. Oh yeah, actually, they did allow men into women's sports, didn't they? Because what happened was, in the Olympics, like shooting and stuff and archery, the things that were based on sort of being able to accurately shoot things, right? That used to be mixed. Used to be mixed gender, but then they ran into a problem in the Olympics. Do you know what it was? Do you know what the problem was? The women kept winning. They'd be on the podium, first, second, and third. Gold, silver, bronze. And the men are like, this isn't fair. This isn't fair. We're not winning anything. And so what they did was they split the group into men and women for shooting in the Olympics. This actually happened. It's mind-blowing, isn't it? Absolutely mind-blowing. And there are no women. There are no men in women's sports. There might be trans women. And I have no problem with that. And a lot of sporting bodies didn't have a problem with it before oil companies wanting to distract from the damage they're doing to the planet, decided that we should all care about this more than anything else in the world. And you have all these people who have never watched women's sports in their lives, never been to a women's football match, never watched the women's events at Wimbledon. All these people are suddenly really, really interested in the fairness of women's sports. Here's some news for you, elite sport is fucking unfair. Let me tell you why. Come here, right? First of all, to be able to compete at that high level, you need to be a freak. Simple as that. You look at swimmers; they are fucking freaks. They're the people that they're half fish, and no wonder they can swim so fast. But then the other issue is that when it comes to elite sports, like yachting, sailing, cycling, shooting, all that. Nearly everyone who wins a gold medal, from this country at least, went to private school. And you get very few people, sorry about the banging, you get very few people who actually make it, anywhere in those events from, I don't know, Kenya. Why do you think it might be that someone from Kenya doesn't do very well in the yachting competition? Why do you think that might be? Why are our Olympic gold medal holders in all the sports where you sit down, where you need really expensive equipment, why are they always private school kids? Why does that always happen? 99% of the time. Why are all the motor racers private school kids? Lando Norris, he's a great racer, but he is a private school kid, And then you have the Nepo babies. Why is that? But this is why, why don't we have more Formula One drivers from Botswana? Yeah, why? Why indeed? Have a think about that. You talk about unfairness in sports, and it's trans women. That's the big unfair thing. When it comes to boxing, right? Here you go. Right, I understand that you don't want to have a tall 6'6" person who weighs 14 stone beating the living shit out of someone who's 4'11" and weighs about 7 stone. Like, I can understand that, and that's why in boxing you have weight categories to make it a bit more fair. So can we do that? Can we have weight categories? How about that? I know some women boxers who would love to take on men of the same weight, and they'll probably do really fucking well at it. And let's talk about the fact that women's football was essentially illegal for over 60 years in this country. 60 years it was illegal for women to play football in a FA certified pitch in a stadium, right? So put it this way, in the 70s, if Everton decided to allow women to play football in Goodison, they would have their right for the men's team to play in what was then the first division taken away from them. So that happened. Did you want to talk about fairness? Let's talk about the fact that rich people and freaks are the people who do really well in sports because they've got freakishly long arms or freakishly big hands or they're freakishly strong or they're freakishly good looking or whatever. But this idea that the trans people are making sports unfair, they're absolutely not. They're absolutely not. Women's football was really popular post-war until the FA canned it. Yeah, misogyny, the patriarchy. And let's talk about women's toilets for a moment, okay? Let's talk about institutional misogyny, institutional architectural sexism. You'll have a brand new stadium built, Wembley Stadium, right? Ever been to Wembley Stadium? Ever been for a gig? Oh, thank you. Ever been to a gig in Wembley? Right? There's a massive queue for the ladies. No queue for the blokes. Funny that. You got the size of a stadium to put stuff in. And instead of having the same number of cubicles, or even better, more cubicles than there are urinals, they don't do that. They give the same footprint to the women's toilet as they do to the men's, which happens all the fucking time. And the idea that trans women are people who are just trying to use the wrong toilets. And it's like, well, you know what? If you didn't want to queue up, maybe you wouldn't have to go through surgery. You wouldn't have to get electrolysis. You wouldn't have to be on HRT for the rest of your life. I mean, there are ways. And then you wouldn't have to queue. And this thing of it's not fair, it's not fair. And then you look at what they're saying isn't fair. And you're like, yeah, it's not fair, but not for the reasons you think. Plum says, as a kid, I was excellent at farting in class. There you go. A nice loud one. Women's football is very entertaining, much better than the men's, which is slow and boring. Women play at twice the speed. Yeah. Thank you so much. You're absolutely right. Sorry, I didn't have any coffee. I don't know. You could tell my throat's getting a bit dry, so I have some now. It's all good. Good to see you, anti-fascist, says Diz there. Yeah, women's football's great. I've been to a few matches of women's football, and I'm planning to go in February to go and see the women's team Everton play at Goodison. This is really cool. So the women's team now play at Goodison, and the men's team play at Hill Dickinson. So women, I think it's one of the few, if maybe the only, I don't know, in the women's league for football. I think it's the only stadium that's dedicated to women. And some people were complaining about the fact that they took down the pictures of the. Sorry. Come in. They took down the pictures of the men playing football, right? They took down those pictures and they put up pictures of women on the side of the stadium in Liverpool. And some people complain, oh God, the history. I'm like, no, but it's a women's stadium now. Get with the program. And also, it's a lot easier to get tickets for the women's matches, whereas getting tickets for the men's matches, I don't know why Everton made a new stadium and then made it so fucking small. I have no idea. All the matches are sold out, and you can get a ticket for the match, but it costs like 500 quid each. And you're looking, you're like, do you get a private box for that with like free champagne? No, that's just like literally a fucking seat. It's like a plastic seat up in the gods. 500 quid. Yeah, I'm not going to pay that to watch my team lose. Imagine paying 500 quid to watch a movie where the baddies win. You go home like in the rain. No, so not only do the baddies win, you got to stand there in the rain, in the cold, in the middle of winter, with your hands in your pockets, watching the baddies watching the goodies get their arse handed to them by the baddies. Very strange thing to do. Even if you just get a normal ticket, it's like 70 quid. The women's teams, the women's games are like £12.50, which is about right. You take the family. I've seen women at French motorway services get fed up with queuing and walk straight into the gents. Yeah, that happens in clubs all the time. That happens in bars. I've seen that happening. Fat Spicer says, post-war, fusty old FA octogenarians ruined all footy, refusing England men to play against any other than Scots or Welsh. So when they finally played against foreigners, Hungary, they got thrashed. That's very true. Well, England didn't take part in the first couple of World Cups, did they? Which were a couple of them were won by, the first two won by Uruguay, which is amazing. Uruguay's won the World Cup more than England has. Benny says, gender splitting portable toilets make no sense. I've seen it once at a festival in Germany. I had a friend accompany a friend of mine to feel safe, and they had an eighth of the toilets for women. The gender splitting toilets, just in general, it is just an absolute nonsense. Like, that's a good example, actually, that you've made there, because portaloos generally at festivals, and all the festivals I've been to, and I've been to over 100, they're very rarely gender split. Very rarely gender split. Occasionally they are, I guess, if they, so women don't have to queue up so much. But they're unisex. They're unisex toilets, and they're effectively cubicles, and people are queuing up to get into the cubicles to go for a piss. And men use them, and women use them, and trans women use them, and trans men use them. And what's the problem? They all use the same toilet. That the toilet in your house is a unisex toilet. Anyone can use it. Yeah. The FA's attitude was that we know we are the best in the world. We don't need to prove it to anyone. Open turf toilets. Yeah, Jesus. Open turf. Okay, so I'm going to just nip over to the papers now. I haven't set a goal today. The reason why I hadn't set a goal, I felt it was a bit not great to be talking about, this particular issue. Which is incredibly serious and affects people that are watching while shilling for quids. But I'll go over to the papers, and what I'll do is I'll do like a goal for like one super chat or something in a little bit, and if we get that, we will have some confetti so we can end on a high. My only problem with unisex toilets is blokes pissed all over the seat. Yes, Martin, they do. Dickheads pissing with the seat down. Put the seat up. Just kick it up with your foot. It's all right. You don't have to touch it. Just we'll get a bit of tissue and lift it up if you're, freaking out. But yeah, I just want to reiterate, the answer here isn't despair. Okay, it's solidarity. It's refusing to accept this manufactured hate as normal. It is getting trans allies on board, as many as possible, because there's a lot of people, myself included. I did a 3 blokes in a pub but it wasn't called that at the time. It was called Pubcast, with a non-binary friend of mine and a trans woman friend of mine, and we it was in 2020. It was during lockdown, and I asked them in it's available on here actually. I'll try and dig it out. I asked them like what can trans allies do? What can we do to help? You know, is it my place to say anything about this as a cisgender man? And they're like, yes, please say something, talk about this, get it out there, because so many people on on the left who have got these massive platforms don't talk about trans rights because they're scared of the shit they'll get if they do. But I'm here proving that actually you don't get that much shit. You just you just mute anyone who's talking shite at you, you know. And I don't think any anti-trans activists are mad enough to want to come to your house and, well, for me, you know, to attack me, because again, just like with migrants, I mean, it's not an issue that affects people personally. Unless you're trans, you know, then it affects you personally. But cisgender people who are getting upset about trans people existing, it's not affecting their day-to-day life. It's not the kind of thing that they would get so upset about that they'd actually resort to attacking me. I don't think. But I think that the fear that people have on the left, if they talk out as a pro-trans activist, I guess, I think that fear is disproportionate to the reality. And when we do have really great trans allies like Kate Nash speaking out about it and saying, no, you know, I'm not going to put up with this shit, you know, I'm a working class gobby woman and you're not going to shut me up, which is fantastic. It's just fantastic to see that. So yeah. Oh God, we got another troll. I love it. This is. Have you noticed how we don't get trolls at all unless we're on something that people are paid to be trolls to do? And this is the thing about these trolls, these you know, these bot people. If they are real, a real person, and they're doing this, they're trolling, right? And they're not getting paid for it. They're in the wrong fucking job, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? Like, how deluded, how mad do you have to be to not get paid for it? There are people getting paid vast sums of money to be trolls. But apparently, some people will do it for free. And you got to be a real dickhead, haven't you? To like just all the balls of Rupert Murdoch or whatever, you know, oligarch, sugar daddy who's never given you any money. You know, to go, oh, Rupert, look at me, I'm defending your honor. You know, I mean, how pathetic, how weak, how lazy not to think for yourself, how lazy to get some fucking million-year-old Australian twat to do all your thinking for you. How lazy. Right, anyway, we're going to go to the papers now. Review will study rising diagnosis of ADHD. Streeting looks to cut numbers claiming benefits. I better hurry up then. And then we've got a picture of the people from the family. They look like wax. They look wax. Are they wax? Are they made of wax? I don't know. MI5 faces censure for Novichok case failures. MI5 is expected to face censure for leaving a former Russian spy targeted in the Salisbury Novichok poisoning alarmingly accessible to assassins sent by President Putin. Yeah. How about going after Boris Johnson for going to a sex party, a sex and drugs orgy in Italy straight after the meeting in NATO that were discussing the attack in Salisbury, which led to the death of a British woman. The excuse of the festival was that some women didn't feel safe using the same toilets as men. Unfortunately, there was so much of a backlash from the audience that it only happened one year. Yeah, and that's it. I mean, I understand. I absolutely understand 100% that women don't feel safe around men because, yeah, why would you at the moment? And that's on men to sort that out. That's not on women. That is on men to sort that shit out by being better. But it's not by excluding trans women from spaces. You know. I mean, they do have women-only carriages on the trains in Egypt. So I think they have them some places in India. You know, they definitely have them in Saudi Arabia, where the sexes are segregated to a really disturbing degree. I don't want that. I don't want that society. I don't want to go back there. There were very few all boys or all girls schools because they found they weren't good. They weren't good for the kids. They didn't mature normally. You all your mates are the same sex as you. It's not a great way to be. And you have an attitude especially amongst older people my age and older, that men and women can't be friends. You can't be mates with someone who's a different different gender to you. It's absolute nonsense. Absolute fucking nonsense. Of course you can. Yeah, but you might want to have sex. You might want to have sex with your male friends or your female friends. I don't know. Things change over your life. Sometimes you might, be surprised to find someone who's the same gender as you really fucking attractive. Someone that you'd actually want to go to bed with. I often say that, everyone's a bit gay. They just haven't found the right man yet. But yeah, on nostalgia sites, people bang on about the good old days. I always point out they never existed. The abuse after that is unbelievable. Yeah, the good old days. The good old days. And then we've got Kelly Brook there, who is doing a thing in the jungle. And inside Epstein's island layer and the chilling images of this house. He's got like a dentist chair set up. It's fucking grim. We have a picture of someone from the family. Meghan's father fighting for life. Thomas Markle, 81, intensive care in a Philippines hospital. That is a strange place for him to be, but there you go. I fear for my year on fat jabs is the reason my feet have stopped working. Jesus. And Kelly, I hope the walls aren't thin. She has been evicted from, spoilers, from I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And we've got more, the waxwork woman up here. Looking at waxwork. So, we've got some royals. We've got some royals. Royal. There's a royal there. There's a royal there. Just in case you've forgotten what they look like. There's a royal there. See the royal? Grumpy royal. Can you see him down there? So there's a front cover there. There is a royal there. There you go. Princess Meghan. And then we've got a royal up here. And the royal up here. Oh, just in case you forget. Oh, there you go. More pictures of the royals. Good. You do think it would be a bit weird, don't you, to print pictures of the family who live down the road and make 500,000 copies of these pictures and then distribute them to every railway station and WH Smith in the country? Wouldn't that be a bit weird? Every corner shop in the country needs a picture of these people. Starmer's mission to crush our high streets. PM accused of killing hospitality with business rate rises. Okay. And then we've got Purple Rain, because she's wearing purple. Okay, cool. That was the colour of royalty because it was really hard to make purple dye back in the day. You had to crush a load of fucking sea urchins or something, and then finally you get like one drop of purple dye after you crush a million sea urchins. And so yeah, the only people who could afford to have purple clothes were the royalty. True story. Police plan for Face ID in every town. British pupils told that Taiwan is part of China. That's not good. A&E. Well, I mean, technically speaking, if you go to Taiwan, they do stamp your passport as Republic of China, whereas if you go to China, they stamp your passport as the People's Republic of China. Just like if you go to South Korea, they stamp your passport as ROK, the Republic of Korea, and if you go into North Korea, they stamp it as the People's Republic of Korea. So, the peoples makes all the difference. Same country, different peoples, I guess. Same peoples, different peoples. I don't know. All the people, so many people, they all go hand in hand through their park life. A&E under siege from patients with hiccups and ingrowing toenails. Oh, fuck off. This is a hypochondriac thing that they say, the NHS is falling down under the weight of all the hypochondriacs. It's not. It's really not. Labour MP suspended over farm tax protest. The Labour MP has been suspended for voting against the Chancellor's family farm tax. Family farm tax? No, it's not a family farm tax. It's an inheritance tax because there was a loophole that if you had land, you didn't have to pay any inheritance tax on your kids didn't have to pay any inheritance tax on that land. So they closed the loophole. And you still only have to pay half the inheritance tax of the rest of the country. But what the problem was, multi-millionaires were buying up lots of land and pretending to be farmers, like Jeremy Clarkson, who literally said in an interview for the Times in 2020 that he bought the land because he wanted to escape paying inheritance tax. Anyway, drawn out airport farewells face £80 fine, so you're going to get fined for saying goodbye to people. That seems very typical of the modern age. Ukraine bombarded as Putin rejects peace. Farewell to Olympic hero, and energy bills increase hidden in budget. It was hopping a search for wild wallabies in the UK. We've got some wallabies out in the out on the I don't know things. Meghan, there's a picture of the royal there because you need at least one picture of a royal on every newspaper. It's the law. Bullying culture harmed patient safety at scandal hit NHS hospital, and first date for a German leader in 27 years. And Farage aims for reverse takeover of Tory party. We discussed that yesterday. EU officials back frozen assets to help to help Kyiv. Yes, please do that. Take the assets from Russia and use them to help rebuild the things that the Russians have destroyed. Russian spies secretly entering UK on cargo ships. That's not good. So they're taking the name off the ship here, just in case, the ship has no name. Where the ships have no name, that's to avoid them getting sued. Men with links to Russian intelligence have used backdoor to land in Britain via docks in Torquay, Middlesbrough and Grangemouth before visiting areas with military bases and critical infrastructure. That's not good. We need a bit more security on our old docks there, I think. Although, China, which is famously very, very strict about who comes in and who comes out. I came into the dock in Hong Kong and I was like, what do we do? Where do I go? The guy, you got to go to immigration. Where's immigration? It's on Hong Kong Island. Hong Kong Island. Okay, so we went I made my own way with my passport, British passport, no stamp in it, no visa for China or nothing, through the streets of Hong Kong. I turned up at the visa at the place that I was told to go to, and they were like, "You're supposed to do this at the port, How did you get so far inside our country without a stamp in your passport, And we had to have a little bit of discussion. I had a little bit of a moment there. I thought, God, they need to fucking deport me for being an illegal immigrant because I didn't actually, I didn't actually get the stamp where I was supposed to get the stamp. They told me in the port to come to this office in the middle of Hong Kong Island. And here I got the ferry across from the mainland to Hong Kong Island to go to this office. I'm like, is this where I get my passport stamped? And I'm looking at my passport like wide-eyed. You've got no stamp? You've got no stamp? I'm like, yeah, I just turned up on a cargo ship. That's mad. So that's what the situation is in Hong Kong. Maybe the Russians read my blog and went, that's how we're going to get in. Anyway, so Farage, the racist schoolboy. Yes, indeed. And Akshata Murthy, I'm no Luddite, but tech stifles human empathy. Human empathy. Are you going to talk about this? Is Rishi Sunak's wife? You're going to talk about empathy. Empathy is, paying your fair share of taxes when you're worth over £500 million and you're living literally in the middle of the city of London, the capital of our country. You're living on Downing Street. You're living at number 11 Downing Street, and yet you are claiming you are non-domiciled here. Oh, fuck off. Formula win. PM announces Metro Milk campaign victory. Hard-pressed parents will save up to £500 a year in victory for Metro's award-winning Formula for Change campaign. Keir Starmer has announced. That's fantastic news. It is a bit unfair on new mothers who cannot breastfeed for one reason or another that they are penalised into having to spend a lot of money on formula for their kids. It's a bit shit. Financial Times here. Bond investors, people who invest in James Bond, warned US Treasury of risk in picking Hassett as Fed chair. This is to do with the Kevin Hassett potential appointment as Federal Reserve chair, amid fears that he would cut interest rates aggressively to placate Donald Trump. Yeah, ruin the economy, man. Humanoid robots coming of age, terrifying. Doubts linger over HSBC boardroom after chair handed to caretaker Nelson. And then we've got the funny-faced twat, what's his name? Putin. Kremlin claptrap. Number 10 derives Putin's war threat as NATO warns he'll feel it if Russia attacks allies. Yeah. We need to get rid of this guy. Hidden scandal of NHS staff exposed to the new asbestos. Thousands of laboratory staff came into contact with dangerous levels of toxic formaldehyde, a chemical linked to cancer that left victims disabled with severe asthma and forced out of work. That is really shit. Oh, wow. SG, thank you so much. Oh, that is so kind of you. SG has just dropped a mega chat into the. Oh, thank you. And that's going to trigger the confetti, don't you? I've completed my 53rd revolution around the sun today. Oh, happy birthday, SG. This old Indian cis woman wants to say to all the trans people here, you are wonderful and you shouldn't be subjected to this shit. Graham, you're a good egg. Oh, thank you. Love to you and all here. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. That calls for confetti. I think we all agree. That calls for confetti. Oh, yes. We have the confetti. Beautiful. Beautiful confetti. Thank you so much, SG. That is so generous. That is so kind of you. I'll read a few more of the chats. And we've got Steve saying, I hated the good old days on TV when it was on the black and white minstrel show, partly because it was a bit racist, but mostly because it was total shite. Yeah, that's another point, isn't it? About like old shows that just you catch a clip on YouTube and you're like, fucking, this wasn't just offensive. It wasn't funny either. You know, maybe you can make an argument for something being offensive if it is funny, but they're not even funny, you know. And Diz says, thanks for your support to SG. Happy Cake Day. Wow, very generous of you. And L is giving lots of trans flags and trans symbol inclusivity, transactional? No, intersectional love there. And yeah, and Viper Scott is giving all the confetti. This is truly amazing. Curacao have become the smallest nation to qualify for the World Cup. The population is estimated to be 185,000. Yeah, I think there's a comprehensive school around here that's got more pupils than that. But yeah, it's but they have increased the number of teams to 48, who are. Excuse me. Oh my god! Oh my god! Thank you so much. Plum has just dropped a mega chat in as well. I wasn't expecting this. Thank you so much, Plum Duff. That is so kind of you. In that case, I join SG from an old man. Love to all the trans legends on here. Love to you all. Oh, so much love. So much love in the chat. Thank you so much. I think we're going to do confetti again. Should we do it again? Confetti! Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, Plum. Thank you, SG. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone in the chat. This is such a lovely group. This is such a lovely, lovely group of people. Thank you. Thank you so much. 53 is well young. I wish I was 53 again. Versus veg pie. Yeah, but it's not the years, it's the mileage. I just want to say thank you. Big thank you to everyone this morning who's been in the chat, apart from the couple of trolls that we got rid of. So big thanks to the moderators for getting rid of those unsavory individuals. I'm gonna get going now. It is 10:30, and also that I've got to go and see how the guys are getting on downstairs, see if they want another cup of coffee. I was planning to have a new show on the channel, which me and Mike have been working on for quite a while, on Thursdays, but given what's happening at the moment with Mike and everything, we've decided to just knock that on the head for the moment, for the time being. But we are working on stuff together, and we might do something, either me and Mike, or me and Tan, or me and Wayne. I don't know. We'll try and do something tonight at 6:00. Before the pub quiz starts at 7:30, yeah, so look out for that. I'm not saying definite that we're definitely doing this, but if you want to give us first of all, obviously a like is always good, but if you subscribe to the channel, if you're not subscribed, you're watching this, please subscribe, or you're listening to it, please subscribe, but also hit the bell notification icon, because sometimes we do shows without much of a preamble, so you don't know that it's going to be on, because it's a bit ad hoc. You know, life is a bit ad hoc at the moment. So yeah, you'll get you'll get a notification if we're going to go live tonight at 6. If not, I will be back tomorrow morning at 9:00 for a packed day of streaming. We've got in the morning, we've got Morning Brew at 1:00. We've got the agenda at 9:30 in the evening. We've got the Friday night social. So please join us for that. So big thanks, big love to everyone. SG, Plum, thank you so much. That is so generous. That is so kind. Mr. Tis says all the best to Mike. Yeah, we all love Mike. Sexy Santa. Hopefully he'll be on the show tomorrow, but maybe we'll be able to do something today. But we will see. We'll see. So yeah, I'm just bowled over by your generosity and by all the love in here. And look, I know things are shit for so many people at the moment in this country. I know it's probably going to get worse before it gets better, but there are people, there are good people. There are people fighting the good fight and trying to help and trying to do the right thing. You can support the Good Law Project, who are doing absolutely, they're doing the Lord's work when it comes to defending trans rights, taking this stuff to the through the courts in the UK and also to the European Court of Human Rights, because this is a clear violation of the human rights of trans people. But yeah, just know that you're not alone. You're not alone. That's the most important thing. And you know, if this community, if the people here can help in any way, we can, and we will. You know, if you want to get in touch with me personally, if you go to grahamdavidhughes.com, there is a contact box at the bottom. If you want to send me a message or get in touch in some way, that is a really good way of getting me. Other ways, like via Twitter. I never look at Twitter. You know, I think everything seems to have a messaging app on it attached to it now. You know, the Blue Sky's got messaging, and Twitter, not Twitter, to Threads, has that got messaging? I don't know. Facebook has got messaging. You've got Telegram, you've got Signal, you've got WhatsApp, you've got 27 different ways of communicating these days. But yeah, the best way to get me is through the website. If you want to give me a call that way. And also there's the Discord server. So if any of you would like to join the Discord server and you're not a member of this channel, or you are a member of the channel and you're having difficulty getting on it, either way, send me a message. Send me a message through grahamdavidhughes.com and I'll sort that out for you, because community is really, really important. And even if you're not, you're not a member of this channel, but you are a long time, someone whose name I would recognize because you comment a lot, please just get in touch with me and you can continue the conversation. After I fuck off, you can continue the conversation on Discord. So, yeah. Hats off to Ivan. He's done a great thing. Yeah, Ivan's, if you've not seen the clip from yesterday, in fact, here's the thing, right? I'm going to go, but before I do go, I'll send you the link here. You've got to go to, sorry, this is going to start playing, isn't it? Here's the link, Parliament TV. This is from Tuesday. This is from Tuesday, and you need to go to 11 o'clock. Okay, so it's just come up on the thing on the screen. You click on that once you finish watching this. I'm going to say goodbye now, and go to 11 o'clock, and they talk about Ivan and just his. This is one person, a good friend of this channel, who has managed to change things. Like one person changing things by not giving up and being absolutely focused on getting their MP, his MP, to bring this up in Parliament. The fact that autistic people were so badly served by the Tory administration during COVID, and if we ever have a pandemic again, the needs of autistic people will be taken into account because of what Ivan's done. It is quite remarkable. So please go and watch the clip. It's worth watching just as a bit of it's in Westminster Hall, and it is worth watching just for see how these things work. But yeah, 5 years of campaigning from Ivan to get to this point, and it just so remarkable. And if you're watching Ivan, well done, mate. Well done. Really proud of you. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that. Hopefully I'll be back at 6 tonight. If not, tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, please join us. I'm going to see what damage these guys are doing downstairs. And until next time, really, honestly, take care. Do little things. That's what I always think. I always try and do, little things that make me happy. When the big picture's getting a little bit overwhelming, I try and shrink things down. It's just a little thing that makes me happy. Planting a plant or having a hot chocolate, or just something that gives me a little bit of a spring in my step. That's what I try to do. Anyway, so yeah, have a great day. And until I see you again, soon, I hope, I'll say hello, good evening, thank you, and goodbye.